I am so sorry. I can't be with you in person. But I hope this short film makes up for it somewhat. I'm in a hotel room. Bonjour. I am so sorry I can't be with you in person, but I hope this short film makes up for it somewhat. I'm in a hotel room just outside Philadelphia where I'm giving a commencement speech at my old university, but it really is an honor to be able to contribute and to be with you, in spirit, and just to say my, absolute congratulations to La Coque du Nomade. And I hope I got my I got my French correct there. Just I really just admire what you are doing. A few reflections from my position as former mayor of Bristol, now in the House of Lords, and more important than all of that, my journey along with my former deputy mayor, Asher Craig. Who is also enthused about what you're doing. First off, we are in this together. As we look at the history of people of African descent, their interactions with the European continent, the global economy, this is a world story. And it doesn't sit within the discrete moment in time that has now stopped and ceases to be of significance. It is an ongoing story, and it is our story. And it's not just ours of people of African descent. As I said, it interacts with France, with UK, with USA, with Caribbean, with countries all over the world. Continuing today. The second thing I would say is that one of the things that we faced in Bristol was sometimes people don't want that history revisited. As it were. Somehow the idea that the way we have told our story and the way we have interpreted our story has been settled, and that is the truth, and it's not to be revisited. without the risk of undermining our sense of who we are. And I just always thought that's such an anti-intellectual approach to take to the ongoing human challenge of understanding who we are, be it through the social sciences, through cosmology, through physical sciences. We're trying to understand what this thing is. This thing called life and what it means to be a human being. Now, when we talk in terms of history, when we talk in terms of all of our pursuits, we keep our current beliefs in a state of humble protection, right? And I mean humble, because new data comes. And when new data comes, we have an opportunity to reassess our previous conclusions in light of that new data. History has been written by the world's wealthy, by the world's victors, as it were. But what we have is groups such as yourselves and groups in the UK is people bringing new information into the public domain. That is just the way it is. New data comes and we have the opportunity to assess our existing conclusions, to test our existing data in light of that new information. And we may have actually been skewed in the data we chose and have problems in the way we interpreted it. So actually what you are doing, what Ash has been involved in doing with the Legacy Foundation in Bristol, is giving our cities, our countries, and I'd extend to our world, but let me focus on our cities and our countries, an opportunity actually to go along that journey of better understanding who we are. How we became who we are, how we got here, and what the key events, trends, systems, developments are that led to that route. And if we better understand who we are and how we got here, then we are more resilient, right? We are stronger for the future. You know, in Bristol, when I was mayor, work was brought forward to bring forward a motion, reparatory justice motion. And I'll be honest with you again, because I see the challenges in it. And one of the things I was at pains to really point out was that anything like this cannot just be symbolic. It has to be of real substance. And to begin to talk to the way the world actually works and to the current political economic state of people of African heritage in Bristol. But we supported that. It came through, and actually it's turned out to be a really important moment in Bristol's journey. And these are things that Asha has really driven on in Bristol for the good of all Bristolians. I think what's also happened now, as you will know, is the work in the city around memorialization. So we started talking about, well, how will we, with the new data, with the new information we got, how will we recognize within Bristol, in a very public way, this new information, this new understanding that people are coming to terms with. And the Colston statue kind of accelerated when the statue of the slave Edward Colston was hauled down. Lots of layers to that, but one of the things that did accelerate this conversation. But what we said at the beginning was, let's not do this alone as Bristol. Going back to the first point, we are in this together. So rather than Bristol just looking at some memorialization, why don't we link up with cities around the world who have been part of that loop, that triangular trade, as it was euphemistically called in the UK. And as we recognize that loop going from Europe to the west coast of Africa, to the South America, North America, and the Caribbean, and back over to Europe, where so many people made so much money, as we recognize it as a loop of kidnap, murder, rape, exploitation, and all the rest, there's another story there that we should recognize. That there is a story of resilience, overcoming, contribution, and the fact that people of African heritage are still standing is remarkable. And we will never take away from the savagery of what happened. We must come to terms with that. The world has to recognize that. But at the same time, that is not the fullness of our story here. The fullness is that through all that savagery, our communities survived, still stand, and make a contribution to this world, which is evidence of incredible resilience. So I wish you all the very best. I truly wish, I could be with you, but we will continue to journey together. Take care.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Egypt Lloyd, and before I get started on today's presentation, I wanted to take a moment to thank three individuals that is very special and dear here at the Enslaved Legacy History Coalition. Number 1, Lord Marvin Rees. Number 2, Miss Asha Craig. And thirdly, Mr. Emmanuel Williams. We thank you here at the Enslaved Legacy History Coalition for spearheading this event and bringing us all together. You are very much appreciated. So today's presentation will be on the introduction to the Enslaved Legacy History Coalition. Our mission here at the Enslaved Legacy History Coalition, commonly known as the Slave Legacy History Coalition, is a consortium of individuals, organizations, and institutions engaged in the preservation and promotion of the history of enslaved New Englanders and the legacies they left behind in Greater Boston and beyond. So, discovering our family legacy. On the left, you have here a father and daughter duo. That's me on the left and my father on the right, Dennis Lloyd. The picture on the right is a very special picture to the Lloyd family because the lady in the middle is an English woman. She is Mrs. Julia Royal, and she is the descendant of the enslaver who enslaved our family. As you know, they are from England. We met here for the very first time at Harvard Memorial Chapel, where she asked forgiveness and we did a reconciliation. And I'm happy to say that we have been like a family ever since. So, just to give a background of who the royal family is, and the vassal family, on the picture on the left, you have here, which is actually held in at Harvard University, the original, is Isaac Royal and his family, which was photoed in 1741. And as you know, this is an English family. They enslaved our family in the house to the right here in Medford, Georgia. And this is the Royal House, which currently stands today. Me and our family had the opportunity to explore that home. On the right is William Vassall. He also enslaved our family here at the house. And the bottom left, the Longfellow House, which is currently located in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Some key figures. On the left, that is Miss Penelope Roy, which is featured in 1742. She married Henry Vassall and takes her children to Henry Vassall Estate near Harvard University. And here on the right is a map of Brown Street with pre-Revolution War accompaniments. Marry Henry Vassall and takes her children to Henry Vassall Estate near Harvard University. And here on the right is a map of Brown Street with pre-Revolution War accompaniments. Now, Darby Vassall. Darby Vassall was our grandfather who was enslaved, and his family, my grandmother, here in Boston by the royal family. This petition right here is very, very special, where Darby Vassall is petitioning to build a school, in which they did, him and his brother Cyrus, which was located at the present day site of the Museum of African American History in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The school was called Abel Smith School. Darby Vassal did a number of things with his brother Cyrus during his time after he found his freedom. And during the later years of his life, he had the permission given to him by a white lady named Miss Catherine Russell to be buried in a tomb under the Episcopal Church in Cambridge, which permission is in hand of Richard Sullivan, Esquire. I request him and Moses Grant to see that my body is there deposited. And that was noted in Darby Vassal's will in 1852. This is the actual site under the undercroft in the church. And we actually did a filming around that. Here Lies Darby Vassal is an art installation surrounding the death and the burial place of Darby Vassal, which is located in Undercroft of Christ. In the burial place of Darby Vassal, which is located in Undercroft of Christ Church. There was a young lady who's a good friend of mine named Nicole Pipenbrink, who is a recent graduate from Harvard Design School. And in November 6th of 2022, myself and my father and my mother was featured in this Here Lies Darby Vassal documentary. Now, this documentary is available for you to see today. I highly recommend you to watch the documentary. It's very informative. And the website where you can look at this documentary is at hereliesdarbyvassal.art. So that's hereliesdarbyvassal.art. The Enslaved Legacy History Coalition has grown since our forming in 2021. We have virtual speakers, and they consist of producers, authors, African American professors. We have directors. We've had the founder of the first African American newspaper in Boston, Massachusetts. And since our forming in 2021, I'm proudly to happy say that we have had 68 presenters each month since our forming. Now, all of these meetings and pre-recording are pre-recorded, and you can go back and recap every single meeting that we had at our Slave Legacy History Coalition YouTube channel. It's laid out there perfectly for you. I invite you to subscribe, and view some of the past presentation. It may be helpful for you on your journey. We have also been blessed to conduct bus tours. We have taken a tour to the unnamed figures of Black presence and absence in the early American North that's featured in the left. And we also had a trip to the Massachusetts Historical Society where we also did a presentation. There is an embroidery project that was held by former senior pastor Dan Smith at the First Church in Cambridge. I was honored to be a part of that. This is a embroidery of all the individuals that were enslaved in the that was enslaved by the pastors and people that's in the churches in the Cambridge Square area. So First Church in Cambridge took on this project. And so this name to the right is Cuba, and that is Darby Vassal's mother, my descendant grandmother. And there's also Darby's Vassal name on there, his father, Tony, and a couple of his brothers and sisters as well. And so a number of people in the Cambridge area has come together to sew these patches. And the wade in the water is actually the river, Charles River, that is in the middle of Cambridge.
Le projet que vous avez pu voir sur la slide précédente est un projet de broderie géante organisé par l'Église et qui permet de tisser de réels liens entre toutes les communautés descendantes de personnes esclavisées aux alentours de Cambridge. D'ailleurs, le fleuve qui traverse la ville de Cambridge, le Charles, est représenté au milieu du projet.
We also hold a community engagement initiative. So what we do here in these photos you see is where we went to different churches within the Cambridge and Boston and Cambridge area. We hold a repetitive listening circle at the African and Methodist Episcopal churches, People's AME churches in Chelsea, and we also have done the Pentecostal Tabernacle Church. We are holding another listening engagement at churches in November of this year. So we're excited about engaging with the community and seeing their thoughts, because that is very important to us.
D'autres événements ont été mis en place pour créer de l'engagement et permettre aux autres communautés d'être incluses à partir de novembre notamment de cette année. Ces événements sont organisés avec le concours des églises environnantes.
Our listening circle formats, we have gathering time, then we go into a prayer time, then we do a framing and goals and guidelines for conversation. Then we sit down and explain to them our connection to Harvard and what Harvard and the Legacy of Slavery is doing now in their initiative. And then we do a moment of silence. And then after that, we also do a descendant testimony, a discussion, in the ending prayer.
Des cercles de discussion ont été mis en place parmi ceux-ci, est-ce qu'il serait possible de revenir quelques secondes en avant sur la slide, s'il vous plaît? Au cours de ces cercles de discussion, il y aura des programmes, notamment avec des prières, la diffusion de films et des moments évidemment de discussion et de partage pour permettre encore une fois de rassembler toutes ces communautés et de partager toutes leurs expériences.
Highlight the importance of all of our work. One of the sticky notes says, proud yet angry. So that sticks out to me because it shows you how important our work is. You know, they're proud of what we're doing, but there's still some reconciliation and understanding that needs to be had. So what we're doing is very, very important. We have a number of affiliates and partners that are part of our Enslaved Legacy History Coalition, from the African American History Genealogical Society to the Higham Society. We also have different individual partners from Harvard University, the Massachusetts Historical Societies. The list goes on and on.
Il y a évidemment des zones qui permettent de partager nos expériences. Nos expériences, et c'est une fierté pour nous de pouvoir permettre cela, de pouvoir permettre aux gens de discuter et d'interagir, mais c'est aussi la preuve qu'il y a un besoin réel de réconciliation et de discussion sur le sujet. Et ensuite sont présentés les partenaires et les groupes affiliés, parmi lesquels d'autres associations qui font un travail similaire, et également des universités.
Here are some of our key partners, which we know as Historic Cambridge, Christ Church, of course, Harvard University, the Royal House and Slave Headquarters, the Museum of African American History, American Ancestors, the Longfellow House, and of course, First Church in Cambridge. So, as we have mentioned before, our meeting was our reconciliation with Jewel Royal is very, very important. And one thing that we like to mention is Harvard's motto Veritas, which is inscribed on the gates and doorways and sculptures all over the campus, demands of us truth. And this picture was the very first day that we met each other. All over the campus demands of us truth. And this picture was the very first day that we met each other. So our proposal, the International Coalition for Preserving the History and Legacy of Enslaved People. Our mission, what we would like to do, the International Coalition for Preserving the History and Legacy of Enslaved People, is dedicated to honoring the experience and contribution of those impacted by the global trafficking and trade of the enslaved Africans.
La proposition de cet organisme est de créer un mouvement international, une vraie coalition internationale de préservation de la mémoire. Et leur mission est évidemment de garder cette mémoire, un devoir de mémoire, et de permettre à l'ensemble de la recherche d'être centralisée et de préserver l'histoire et de continuer à la partager. Et de responsabiliser les personnes de continuer à responsabiliser les personnes responsables de la traite.
Through international collaborations, research, public education, and advocacy, we seek to challenge historical misconceptions, promote understanding, and secure justice and recognition for enslaved communities and their descendants worldwide. So, our key objectives: first, creating an international coalition building; secondly, research and public memory; and thirdly, advocacy. The international coalition building forges international alliances and partnerships across North and South America, the Caribbean, Europe, and Africa to promote solidarity, cooperation, and mutual support for preserving the history and legacy of slavery. Secondly, we would like to utilize the International Coalition Network as a tool to repair historical misunderstandings.
Les objectifs clés qui vous sont présentés ici sont de créer une vraie alliance entre l'Amérique du Sud et du Nord, l'Europe et les Caraïbes, et de continuer ce travail de
and foster relationships among communities within the international coalition. And thirdly, establish a relationship with the United Nations and other international organizations like NGOs and human rights groups with focus on the UN working groups of experts on people of African descent to secure funding support to support these initiatives. The research and public memory. We would like to conduct research to clarify and challenge public understanding of the international slave trade, debunking the myths and misconceptions, including the false attributions of equal blame to Africans, and highlighting the complexities of relationship between the countries involved in these practices.
Leur but est également de créer un réel lien avec des organismes importants comme les Nations Unies ou d'autres organismes non gouvernementaux afin d'obtenir des subventions et une réelle aide et une réelle écoute à un niveau international. Et ensuite de créer un cercle de recherche et de devoirs de mémoire publique qui permettrait de clarifier et de mener des meilleures recherches et de permettre de meilleures archives des familles qui ont subi tout ça et de pouvoir continuer à mettre en avant les rapports complexes qu'entretiennent ces familles et leur pays et les descendants de chaque côté.
When appropriate, engage in physical memorialization projects to honor the memory of enslaved individuals and communities. And thirdly, host an international conference on the legacy of slavery to share researches and findings. Advocacy. Advocacy is very important. We would like to build capacity in repertory justice and legacy related to organizations globally. And lastly, we would like to mobilize enslaved descendant communities, organizations, and allies to form a platform dedicated to advocating for their rights and recognition on the international stage. We would like to hear from you. Please contact us via our website, slavelegacyhistorycoalition.org. We highly suggest you to visit our YouTube channel at Slave Legacy History Coalition. We would love to hear from you via email. Feel free to email my father, Dennis Lloyd, at dennis@slavelegacyhistorycoalition.org. I would love to hear from you personally. Email me at egypt@slavelegacyhistorycoalition.org. And lastly, feel free to reach out to our head coordinator, Naomi Gordon, at naomi@slavelegacyhistorycoalition.org.
Enfin, leur but est également de mettre en place des plateformes afin de permettre aux personnes descendantes de personnes esclavisées de se défendre, de défendre leurs droits, de défendre leurs voix et de mettre en place cette justice réparatrice dont on entend parler depuis ces derniers jours et de permettre à ces personnes de faire enfin entendre la voix de leurs ancêtres. Vous pouvez les contacter si vous avez la moindre idée ou la même envie de participer à ce projet.
Comme vous pouvez le voir sur l'image de la première diapositive, cette image date d'à peu près mars 2024, mais il faut, lorsque la fondation
Yeah, 2026, the Legacy Commission was formed, yeah.
La commission autour de l'héritage de l'esclavage a été inaugurée. Cependant, il faut savoir que c'est en 2007 que cette histoire a commencé. Dans la ville, le but était de travailler sur la résolution et de travailler également sur le soutien de l'abolition qui fêtait ses 200 ans.
You can see from the timeline that there was a gap of nearly 12 years before anything further was done on the work around slavery. And in 2019, both the mayor and I established the Legacy Steering Group. In 2021, the motion was passed at Bristol City Council, an atonement and reparations motion, and for the first time ever in Bristol. Okay, go ahead.
Il se trouve qu'en 12 ans, aucune initiative quant à l'esclavage n'a été réellement prise. Et c'est en 2019 que le maire ainsi que moi-même avons créé ce groupe de pilotage autour de ce groupe de pilotage autour de l'héritage.
And in 2021, after the atonement, the motion was passed. For the very first time ever in Bristol, we undertook a piece of research called Project Truth, and that set out a series of recommendations. That was us speaking to people of African heritage. We centered our communities.
En 2021, le conseil de la ville de Bristol a commencé un projet autour de l'expiation des crimes et de la réparation. Et pour la première fois, le projet Truth a émis une série de recommandations et a recommandé également d'engager une conversation avec les descendants africains de l'esclavage transatlantique.
If you go back to the previous screen. So in 2022, Mayor Marvin Rees allocated £250,000 for us to start the work, and £50,000 of that supported a major project, a UK-wide project called The World Reimagined, and that was kind of like the first set of art installations that we did in partnership with leading Black, African and Caribbean artists working in conjunction with communities, schools and young people.
En 2022, le maire Rees et moi-même avons alloué 200 000 livres pour commencer ce travail, et 50 000 livres sur ces 200 000 ont été dirigés vers un projet Regenerative World, is that right? Donc le monde régénéré, et qui a donné naissance à un partenariat avec des artistes de descendance africaine et caribéenne, et donc qui ont fait un travail dessus.
We started to form the organization and we set up 4 working groups, a working group on memorialization, one around the story house, one looking at reparatory justice, and a partnerships and investment and resources group. We then formally constituted in 2023, and as I said, we launched in 2024, following a signing of a memorandum of understanding between the City Council and BLF.
Et donc nous avons créé cette organisation et nous avons donc créé 4 groupes de travail. Le premier sur la Story House, donc la maison de l'histoire. Le second sur la justice réparatrice et enfin des groupes de partenariat. Ce projet a été commencé en 2023 mais il s'est concrétisé en 2024.
Our partners, next slide. Our partners include include a number of different departments in Bristol City Council. So we have the culture team, the international office works with us, and the regeneration team. We also have, if you go back, the Society of Merchant Venturers, which was a major proponent of slavery organization in the city, and Edward Colston was a leading player in the Society of Merchant Venturers, and it was SMV who put that statue up in our city before it came crashing down in 2021.
Et donc parmi nos partenaires sont différents départements de la mairie de Boston, dont les équipes de la culture, l'équipe internationale et l'équipe sur la régénération. Et donc un de nos partenaires est la société Merchant Ventures, dont Monsieur Coulson, dont nous avons parlé de la statue plus tôt, était le dirigeant. Et c'est cette société qui avait installé la statue à cet endroit-là.
The Church of England and both the universities of Bristol and the West of England are also our partners. Next slide, please.
Parmi nos partenaires sont aussi donc l'Église d'Angleterre, l'Université de Bristol et l'Université de l'Ouest de Londres.
So last year we visited the International Slavery Museum in Liverpool, and that was where I first made contact with La Coque du Nomade. And it was an event that was organized in part by John Dower and the heirs of slavery, who brought Dieudonné, Pierre, Emmanuel over to Liverpool. We were invited and we had an opportunity to view the Slavery Museum and talk about how we were going to work together.
L'an dernier, j'ai donc pu aller visiter le Musée international de l'esclavage à Liverpool. Et c'est là que j'ai pu faire la connaissance de l'équipe de la Coque Nomade Fraternité. C'était donc un événement qui a été organisé par John Dower et le Heirs of Slavery, donc l'association des héritiers de l'esclavage. Et donc j'ai pu rencontrer à ce moment-là Dieudonné, Pierre et Emmanuel qui étaient invités avec nous. Et nous avons pu échanger sur comment est-ce que nous pourrions faire un partenariat ensemble.
Next slide, please. And then in November that same year, the European Heritage Hub, which is an initiative of Eurocities, held a peer learning visit to Nantes, and I was invited to attend. It was a program that had about, 15 different cities across Europe represented, and it was really there to share best practice. But I also used it as an opportunity to formally visit La Coque du Nomade, and there's a picture of myself and Pierre, not far from here actually. So yes, it was an opportunity for me to learn more about what was happening in Nantes.
Et donc en novembre de l'année, le groupe de l'héritage européen a organisé une visite à Nantes. Et donc nous avons pu visiter la ville, entre autres. Et ce programme inclut de nombreuses villes européennes. Et pour moi, ça a été particulièrement une opportunité de rencontrer la Coque Nomade européenne et d'échanger plus avant sur notre projet.
Just quickly, the next slide. We also started work on the International Roundtable on legacy and memorialization, and kicked off with an initial meeting moderated by Lord Rees and included representatives from Boston, Barbados. We had both the High Commissioner and one of the ministers of Speightstown in Barbados. Hanover was present, Liverpool, London, Glasgow, and Nantes through La Coque du Nomade.
Et c'est ainsi que nous avons commencé ce travail. Est-ce que vous pourrez mettre la slide précédente, s'il vous plaît?
One of the first major...
Sorry. Est-ce que vous pouvez remettre la slide précédente, s'il vous plaît?
Go back to the next slide. Previous? Yes.
Yes, perfect, thank you. Et donc nous avons pu participer aux tables-rondes internationales sur l'héritage et la mémorialisation, dirigées par Lord Rees et en partenariat avec Boston, la Barbade. Et il y a eu de nombreux représentants, notamment de Liverpool, de Glasgow, de Hanovre en Allemagne et de la ville de Nantes en tant que les représentants de la Coque Nomade Fraternité.
So another major project that we are currently working on is the city centre promenade in Bristol. The Broadmead Improvement District invited BLF to put forward an artist who would create a new interactive artwork right in the middle of the city. And so the construction of the project is happening as we speak, and it will join the memorial that we will hope to erect in 2027 at the Cascade Steps, which is where the statue, next to where the statue of Colston went into the water.
Et donc un de nos projets majeurs actuellement est donc le projet de la promenade du centre-ville. Ce projet constitue donc, est constitué d'une œuvre d'art par un artiste que nous avons recommandé, une œuvre d'art qui est interactive et qui permet la construction d'un mémorial en lien avec un autre mémorial que nous souhaiterions ériger en 2027 au niveau des Cascade Steps, qui est l'endroit où la statue de Coulson a été jetée à l'eau.
Before we left office, next slide, what you're about to see is the building that we have identified for the Story House in Bristol. It's, next slide, it's a former tobacco bonded warehouse in the city. There are two that sit next to each other, but that's the building on the left that we would like to create the Story House in. Yeah, go ahead.
Donc ce que vous voyez sur cette image est l'endroit dans lequel nous prévoyons de mettre en place la Story House. C'est donc un ancien hangar. Il y avait différents hangars qui étaient reliés à cette époque et nous prévoyons d'utiliser celui de gauche, donc le B-Bond Warehouse, qui était un ancien hangar à tabac.
The building sits right on the edge of the water, so as the ships come in and come out, you have to pass B-Bond, and obviously it was the entrance and entry for the ships that were coming and sailing off to America with the tobacco.
Et donc le bâtiment était très proche de la mer et c'était un bâtiment que nous ne pouvions pas manquer, que ce soit en arrivant dans la ville ou en repartant vers les Amériques.
Next slide. So very quickly, so B-Bond, where it's ringed, where the red circle, we are now working with the master planners. So the harbour side is about to undergo a huge multi-million pound regeneration, new housing, new community spaces, and the B-Bond sits slap bang in the middle of the harbour development.
Et donc le B-Bond est le bâtiment que vous voyez juste ici dans le cercle rouge. Et donc notre projet est allié au travail actuel qui est de régénérer la ville et donc de construire des espaces communaux et des nouveaux espaces de vie. Et cet endroit sera donc juste au milieu.
Next slide. So LDS, who were appointed the master planners, go back, please. Yeah. They offered Bristol Legacy Foundation 50 hours of their time, social value time, and they worked with us over the last 2-3 months to look at the B-Bond as a potential site, but also to consider new build or other potential building options, as B-Bond is a grade 2 listed building and it would be a financial headache to pour money into a building of that size and which is quite complicated to regenerate.
Et donc la LDS, qui est donc un cabinet d'architectes, nous a offert 50 heures de leur temps pour travailler, et ils font ça depuis 2-3 mois, sur ce lieu donc potentiel pour notre Story House. Mais ils nous ont aussi proposé de regarder d'autres options pour ce projet, parce que ce bâtiment étant très grand, cela représente un travail assez conséquent.
That work, next slide. The work has completed, but we need to make a decision as an organisation. So following the workshops that was held, we have decided what we want. We want a world-class exhibition and gallery space. We want a flexible event and performance venues. We want a research library and education spaces, and a community garden, kitchen, daycare facilities. And as you can see from B-Bond, it's big enough to host all of those facilities.
Et donc le travail de LDS est fini, mais il nous reste une décision à prendre et nous avons effectivement pris une décision. Nous souhaitons avoir ce projet soit un projet colossal et qu'il y ait non seulement des expositions, mais aussi des programmes de recherche, d'éducation et un jardin communal et beaucoup d'autres aides pour la communauté.
So my last slide is really setting out the 10-year journey that we are on, our 10-year plan. So from 2024 to 2027, we will deliver the City Centre Promenade project, as you saw earlier. We've delivered on the feasibility study for the Story House. We want to create a number of partnerships with private and public sector partners and create an African reparatory justice and legacy building program centered around African heritage communities.
Donc vous pouvez voir à l'écran notre projet sur les 10 ans à venir. Donc entre 2024 et 2027, nous avons donc le projet de la promenade. Nous sommes renseignés sur la faisabilité de la Story House et nous souhaitons mettre en place différents partenariats, entre autres avec les secteurs publics et privés, pour aider encore à nouveau la communauté des descendants d'Africains.
Between 2028 and 2031, we intend to develop further our national and international links with cities and countries across the diaspora. We will put together or finalize the design for the Story House and look to secure the investment required to make it a reality.
Ensuite, entre 2028 et 2031, nous souhaitons développer les relations internationales et nationales sur ce projet avec les différents pays de la diaspora. Nous avons pour projet donc de finaliser la conception de la Story House et nous recherchons encore des investissements pour réaliser ce projet.
We've also have responsibility for the empty Colston plinth, and as an organisation we've decided we're leaving it empty, and we'll decide on that when we're ready, and it will happen sometime during that period, but we're in no hurry. I think being empty says it all, really. Just leave it empty. And then go ahead.
Et donc nous avons aussi la responsabilité du socle de la statue de Coulson qui est actuellement vide, mais nous n'avons pas de pression pour ce projet actuel et je pense que le fait qu'il soit vide actuellement veut déjà tout dire.
And then by 2034, we will hopefully the Story House will be built, and so we'll not launch, we will open the Story House and hopefully begin the systemic change that is needed in cultural spaces right across the city. So even during the 10-year period, we're going to be working with all the major cultural spaces and organisations on a whole series of events leading up to and beyond the opening of the Story House.
Et donc d'ici 2034, nous souhaitons être prêts à ouvrir la Story House et commencer un travail sur un changement systémique. Et donc nous avons un travail à faire avec les espaces culturels, mais aussi avec les associations, et nous souhaitons organiser des événements précédents et encore après l'ouverture de la Story House.
So now I'm going to talk about the alliance, and I'm going to go to my laptop.
Je vais maintenant parler de l'Alliance et je vais donc prendre mon ordinateur.
So, the journey in Bristol, where I had the privilege of serving alongside Mayor Marvin Lebris as his deputy from 2016 to 2024.
Donc mon parcours à Bristol, pendant lequel j'ai eu le privilège de travailler avec Lord Rees entre 2016 et 2024.
For centuries, the city of Bristol was a central node in the transatlantic trafficking of enslaved Africans. a history marked by profound human suffering, and for too long, this truth was buried in silence, but silence is not healing.
Pendant des siècles, Bristol a été un endroit important de la traite transatlantique et cette histoire a été cachée pendant trop longtemps et je pense qu'il est important d'en parler aujourd'hui.
You heard earlier that in 2019 we established the Bristol Legacy Foundation to confront that silence and give shape to a future rooted in justice. BLF was born from community-led demands for truth, for reparation and for commemoration. And today it unites city leaders, academics, heritage institutions, and most importantly, the voices of African heritage communities.
Comme vous l'avez entendu, la Bristol Legacy Foundation a commencé en 2019 afin de confronter le silence qui entourait notre histoire. Et nous avons besoin d'un futur ancré dans la justice. Et c'est donc ce que nous cherchons à faire afin de trouver des réparations pour la communauté africaine.
As you've heard me say already, our work spans several vital pillars. We will create a national memorial to honour those who have suffered, the Story House to educate future generations, a centre of excellence and reparatory initiatives, which will also include land-based projects, and an enduring partnership framework to anchor the work in accountability.
Donc notre travail actuellement est de créer un mémorial pour les personnes qui ont souffert de tout cela. Avec la Story House, nous souhaitons éduquer les générations à venir et nous souhaitons créer un centre d'excellence sur la justice réparatrice afin d'aider les générations futures.
But this is not merely about Bristol. It's about the global responsibility to confront legacies of enslavement wherever they have left their mark. As we stand here in France, a nation with its own complex colonial past, we are reminded that the journey towards justice knows no borders.
Et ce n'est pas seulement limité à Bristol. Nous parlons beaucoup de l'esclavage, mais même en France, cela est un sujet complexe et il est important d'en parler et d'échanger à ce sujet.
Bristol, like so many of our cities, bears the visible and invisible scars of that legacy. Streets, statues, institutions, all carrying the weight of a past that has been too often distorted or denied. But what if we could do something different? What if we could take the threads of that painful history and use them to weave new relationships rooted in truth and rooted in equity?
Bristol a une histoire importante et cette histoire de l'esclavage est à la fois visible et invisible, que ce soit dans les statuts ou les institutions. Et le passé est souvent distordu ou nié, mais peut-être pouvons-nous utiliser tout cela pour forger une nouvelle histoire basée sur l'équité.
After Mayor Rees and I left office in May 2024, the work of the Bristol Legacy Foundation really continued to gather pace, and we agreed to carry forward the international work we had started in office, with commitment from Bristol City Council's new administration and leadership, and the city's brilliant international team.
Lord Rees a quitté son poste de maire en mai 2024, mais le travail de la BLF continue avec l'aide de la nouvelle administration de Bristol.
Bristol Legacy Foundation's guiding principle is simple but firm. Nothing about us without us. It means that those most impacted by the legacies of slavery must be at the heart of the work, not at the edge of the table. It means leadership by African heritage communities, accountability by the institutions that once profited from our pain, and a future built on collective action, not token gestures.
Et donc le principe est simple. Nous voulons que rien de ce qui nous concerne soit fait sans nous. Nous avons notre place au cœur des débats et non seulement au bord de la table. Nous avons besoin d'être dirigés par des personnes de descendance africaine. Nous avons besoin que les dirigeants politiques reconnaissent leur responsabilité dans notre souffrance, et nous avons besoin de travailler ensemble vers un futur.
Our international roundtable series brought together voices from across the transatlantic triangle, from Barbados to Boston, from Glasgow to Ghana, and of course from here in Nantes, France. These roundtables have laid the groundwork for future cross-border partnerships and knowledge exchange, given our shared histories of the transatlantic trafficking of enslaved Africans.
Notre série de table ronde internationale a permis d'entendre les voix des différentes personnes, que ce soit des Barbades, de Boston, des Caraïbes ou encore d'ici en France.
And that brings me to a pivotal moment in our journey. As you saw earlier, in May of last year, while visiting the International Slavery Museum in Liverpool, I met two extraordinary men, Dieudonné Boutrin and Emmanuel Williams, alongside Pierre, leaders of Le Coq Nomade Fraternité. I'll never forget that meeting. We stood among the artifacts and echoes of that dark history, and they shared their vision, a bold, beautiful initiative called Le Masque of Fraternité and Remembrance. It was a light bulb moment for me.
Et donc à un moment critique, en mai dernier, au musée de l'esclavage de Liverpool, j'ai pu rencontrer des personnes incroyables, Dieudonné Boutrin, Emmanuel, mais aussi Pierre, et j'ai pu découvrir leur travail avec la Coq Nomade Fraternité. Nous avons partagé une vision et ils nous ont partagé leur vision et leur projet du mât de la fraternité.
Here was something tangible. Here was a symbol that could physically connect our cities, a monument not just to the suffering of the past, but to the strength of those who survived and the solidarity we now build. The mast stands for memory, justice, and connection, and its construction, hopefully to be completed and inaugurated right here in Nantes, not Bristol, in Nantes, later this year, will be the first monument of its kind in the world.
Et c'est quelque chose de tangible qui connectera nos villes, non seulement qui parlera un monument, qui parlera non seulement des souffrances du passé, mais aussi de la force et de la résilience des personnes qui ont survécu. Ce monument, sera un signe de justice, et sa construction sera ici l'année prochaine, et non à Bristol, mais vraiment ici à Nantes.
Let me say clearly, we at Bristol Legacy Foundation are proud to stand with Le Coq Nomade. Their commitment is tireless, their mission is urgent, and yet, let's be honest, they are doing this without the support they deserve. This very event we are attending, this symposium, is not supported by the city of Nantes. We were told excuses, we witnessed absences, and we must name the truth. Black-led associations like Le Coq Nomade are too often sidelined in favour of better funded, government-supported, white-led organisations that present history through a more comfortable colonial lens.
Et il me faut dire que la BLF soutient très fièrement la Coq Nomade Fraternité, qui est un mouvement nécessaire qui fait fonctionner cette association sans aide, sans aucun soutien de la part du gouvernement. Et nous voyons exactement aujourd'hui ce qui se passe, nous voyons ce manque de soutien. Et il faut admettre la vérité, ce projet est quelque chose d'important et nous ne voyons pas de soutien.
Even the slavery memorial here in Nantes, though well-intentioned, can feel confusing, distant, and sanitized. But Le Mast is different. It is living, it's going to be radical, and unapologetically human. It does not dilute, it illuminates.
Et même au mémorial de l'esclavage, nous voyons une histoire confortable, distante et sanitarisée presque, tandis que le mât est un symbole radical et humain qui dit l'entièreté de la vérité.
As I've said, later this year, Le Coq du Nomade will install its mast here in Nantes. And today I'm really proud to announce that Bristol is preparing to become the second city to install one also. We believe these masts, these vertical monuments of memory, will one day rise across the Atlantic Triangle, in Africa, in the Caribbean, in Europe, in the Americas, not as relics of grief, but as beacons of truth and hope. When lit, they will signal both a reckoning with the past and a commitment to a future forged in solidarity.
Et je suis fière d'annoncer aujourd'hui que ce mât est un symbole réel et que Bristol est prêt à suivre Nantes dans ce projet et est fier de ce projet qui est d'installer donc des mâts dans le triangle atlantique, que ce soit en Afrique, dans les Caraïbes, en Europe ou en Amérique. Et le symbole de ces mâts allumés permettra non seulement d'être un souvenir du passé, mais aussi un contrat pour l'avenir.
The masts will quite literally connect the ties that bind us together. Earlier you heard from Egypt about the draft charter for the International Coalition for Preserving the History and Legacy of Enslaved People. Developed with our partners in Boston, Barbados, Liverpool, Nantes and beyond, this charter sets out the framework for cities to come together, not just in memory, but in action, through shared advocacy, cultural cooperation and community-led leadership.
Et nous avons entendu parler en Égypte de ce projet de charte pour préserver non seulement l'histoire, mais aussi l'héritage dans plusieurs villes, qui permettra de se rassembler non seulement simplement en mémoire, mais aussi dans toutes nos actions.
Our intention is to share the draft charter with cities and organizations across the diaspora, and we will then ask of you to support the charter by signing it, to stand with us and to help us expand the coalition so that our past does not divide us, but instead fuels the justice and unity our ancestors were denied. Because history demands more than commemoration, it demands collaboration. And as we say in Bristol, as we carry forward the work of our elders and communities, nothing about us without us.
Et notre intention est donc de nous joindre à ce projet de charte, et je vous demande de la soutenir en la signant vous-même. L'histoire demande que nous, non seulement la collaboration, mais aussi une vraie collaboration, et nous portons encore aujourd'hui le travail de nos ancêtres, et comme je l'ai dit plus tôt, nous souhaitons que rien ne soit fait à notre sujet sans nous.
So, let us honor Le Coq du Nomade, and let us ensure that when the mast rises here in Nantes and soon in Bristol, it marks not just a point of remembrance, but the start of a powerful, permanent global connection. Thank you.
Je souhaiterais donc aujourd'hui que nous nous honorions le travail des La Coq Nomade et que nous nous assurions que lorsque le mât se lèvera, non seulement à Nantes, mais aussi à Bristol, ce ne soit pas simplement un lieu de mémoire, mais le début d'une vraie collaboration. Merci.
Merci, désolé, c'était de ma faute, j'aurais dû faire l'introduction. Il va y avoir une vidéo. Ah d'accord, donc c'est Linda qui dit quelques mots avant la vidéo, d'accord, ok, merci.
Bonjour tout le monde. Je m'appelle Linda Tigne-Le-Douarin. Je travaille à l'UNESCO au siège à Paris. I will speak in English and if I can ask someone to translate. C'est juste une petite introduction avant la vidéo de notre sous-directrice générale. C'est un grand privilège. It's a great privilege for me to be here standing before you, surrounded by distinguished experts, advocates, champions, activists, and the civil society joining us here, each contributing to plant the seed towards a growing global movement for reparatory justice.
C'est un grand privilège pour moi de me tenir aujourd'hui devant vous experts, symboles et membres de la société civile, et de pouvoir compter sur vous et de pouvoir nous réunir tous ensemble afin de planter les graines de la justice réparatrice.
As you may know, UNESCO has been implementing the Roots of Enslaved Peoples program for more than 30 years now, and last year we launched the Dialogues for Reparatory Justice, where we were very happy to have the participation of Dieudonné, Pierre, John, and a host of other partners in the series of dialogues.
Vous n'êtes pas sans savoir qu'à l'UNESCO, cela fait près de 30 ans que nous avons mis en place des projets de justice réparatrice, et nous sommes aujourd'hui très fiers de pouvoir compter sur la participation de personnes comme Dieudonné et Pierre et les autres hôtes, et de pouvoir continuer le travail.
These past few days, I have been fortunate to speak with some of you, especially together with Asher, with Marie-Annick, with Priscilla. We have decided that we will launch another dialogue in Bristol at the end of the year.
Ces derniers jours, j'ai été très chanceuse de pouvoir parler avec certains et certaines d'entre vous, notamment Asher, Marie-Annick et Priscilla, et nous avons pris la décision commune de créer ce dialogue et de l'emporter à Bristol avec nous.
So together with you, we will create these safe spaces of dialogue, and we will have the ownership of everyone joining us here in this series, and we hope that UNESCO will find other partners to make this dialogue a global movement.
Notre but par cela est de créer d'autres safe spaces, et nous espérons que l'UNESCO parviendra à se lier à d'autres mouvements plus locaux pour créer, afin de créer ces safe spaces.
You will hear some details from our Assistant Director General, but I would like to just reiterate my thanks to the team of Pierre and Dieudonné, but I would also like to express that I have this personal commitment to work with all of you, and we hope, here we are all choir members, but we hope that one day we will be able to preach also to the unconverted.
J'aimerais également adresser mes remerciements à Pierre et Dieudonné et exprimer mon engagement personnel dans cette lutte, et espérer que qu'un jour nous puissions permettre aux gens qui ne sont pas au courant de l'être.
So now I have the pleasure to introduce to you a video message from the former Assistant Director General of UNESCO, Gabriela Ramos.
J'ai maintenant l'insigne honneur de vous présenter une vidéo de l'ancienne directrice de l'ancienne vice-directrice générale de l'UNESCO, Gabriela Ramos.
Merci beaucoup.
Scientifique, chers élèves, je suis honorée de vous adresser aujourd'hui ces messages et de remercier la coque nomade Fraternité et son président, M. Dieudonné-Vautrin, pour l'organisation de ce symposium. La profondeur et l'ampleur des recherches universitaires autour de l'histoire de l'esclavage et la justice réparatrice démontrent l'importante croissance de ces domaines. Il apparaît essentiel de produire un savoir scientifique sur ces réalités. En particulier dans le contexte actuel de désinformation. Comprendre cet héritage et ses conséquences, à la fois historiques et contemporaines, n'est pas simplement un exercice académique, mais un fondement pour la construction d'une société inclusive. La UNESCO s'engage depuis plusieurs décennies dans la lutte contre les racismes, les discriminations et les inégalités. Nous avons observé lors d'une étude lancée à l'occasion de la 4e édition du Forum mondial contre le racisme et la discrimination en décembre dernier que 60% des cas de racisme intersectionnel impliquent les facteurs de la race, souvent directement liés à l'histoire et à l'héritage de l'esclavage et de la traite des esclaves. Ainsi, le programme de l'UNESCO Route des personnes mises en esclavage est à l'avant-garde de nos efforts pour faire avancer la connaissance et la recherche, favoriser les réseaux internationaux et soutenir les initiatives de mémoire liées à l'esclavage et à la traite. En octobre 2024, nous avons notamment inauguré le réseau des lieux d'histoire et de mémoire liés à l'esclavage et la traite. Celui-ci a déjà réuni 22 lieux historiques dans 10 pays et nous entendons lancer prochainement un programme de jumelage de villes au sein de ces réseaux afin de développer des initiatives de mémoire. Nous avons aussi lancé une alliance de chaires universitaires sur l'étude et l'histoire de l'esclavage qui viendra renforcer la recherche et la production de connaissances. Aujourd'hui, nous nous réunissons en communauté scientifique pour collaborer et réfléchir aux formes de réparation et d'apaisement de cette histoire violente. En collaboration avec la Fondation Guardian, l'UNESCO réunit des acteurs et partenaires pour développer des dialogues sur la justice réparatrice et formuler un cadre commun de compréhension et surtout d'action. Il apparaît important de favoriser le dialogue interculturel et les échanges à travers de la science humaine et sociale. La perspective internationale et l'approche comparée permettent également d'aborder un héritage nécessitant des solutions globales. La présentation du mât de la fraternité et de la mémoire vient aussi inscrire matériellement un projet éducatif et un symbole fort de mémoire dans une ville marquée par l'histoire de l'esclavage et de la traite. Je vous remercie de m'avoir donné l'occasion de participer à ce symposium et j'attends avec impatience les idées et les réflexions qui émergeront de vos échanges.
you.